from the nation's capital and are a public service of your television provider. C-SPAN, created by cable.
So please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you are about to give to the Senate Committee on Energy and Natural Resources shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Before you begin your statement, I will ask you 3 questions that we address to each nominee before the committee. Will you be available to appear before the committee and other congressional committees to represent departmental positions and respond to issues of concern to the Congress?
I will.
Are you aware of any personal holdings, investments, or interests that would constitute a conflict or create an appearance of such a conflict should you be confirmed and assume the office to which you have been nominated by the President?
Madam Chairman, my investments, personal holdings, and other interests have been reviewed by both myself and the appropriate ethics counselors within the federal government. I've taken all appropriate action to avoid any conflicts of interest, and there are no conflicts of interest or appearances thereof to my knowledge.
Thank you. And final question, are you involved or do you have any assets that are held in blind trust?
I do not.
Thank you, Representative Zinke. You may proceed with introduction of family and your opening statements, but welcome to the committee.
Well, thank you, Madam Chairman, Ranking Member Cantwell, and members of the committee. And thank you also, Montana Senators Tester and Daines, for their kind remarks, leadership, and continued service on behalf of our great treasured state. It is an honor to appear before this esteemed Senate Committee on Energy and Natural Resources. Before beginning my remarks, I'd like to introduce and recognize my members of the family who have joined me today. My wife, Lolita, who is also a member of the President's-elect Hispanic Advisory Committee, the Council, Lola. My 2 grandchildren, Matilda and Charlotte. My daughter, Jennifer, and her husband, Jack. And for the record, I did tell my daughter, don't join the Navy and don't marry a Navy SEAL, and she did both. My sons, Wolfgang and Conrad, are back at school and hopefully studying today, so they will not be with us. Well, as a son of a plumber and a kid who grew up in a small timber town and railroad town in Whitefish near Glacier Park, I am humbled to be before you as a President-elect's designee for Secretary of Interior. I'm also deeply humbled because of the great responsibility the position holds to be the steward of our majestic lands, the champion of our great Indian nations, and the manager and voice of our diverse wildlife. Up front, I am an unapologetic admirer of Teddy Roosevelt and believe he had it right when he placed under federal protection millions of our acres of federal lands and set aside much of it as our national forest. Today, those lands provide Americans the opportunity to hike, fish, camp, recreate, and enjoy the great outdoors. It was on these lands that my father taught me to hunt and fish, and the Boy Scouts taught me the principles of environmental stewardship and the importance of public access. It is also on these lands that many communities, like the community I grew up in, rely on to harvest timber, mine, and provide our nation with critical energy. Without question, our public lands are America's treasures and are rich in diversity. I fully recognize and appreciate there are lands that deserve special recognition and are better managed under the John Muir model of wilderness, where man has a light touch and is an observer. I also fully recognize that the preponderance of our federal holdings are better suited under the Pinchot model of multiple use, using best practices, sustainable policies, and objective science. During my recent centennial, or during the recent centennial of our National Park Service, I found myself at a ceremony at Yellowstone National Park, our first national park, established by Congress and signed into law by President Ulysses S. Grant on March 1st, 1872. As I enjoyed the celebration under the famous Roosevelt Arch, I could not help but notice the words etched on the stone above: for the benefit and enjoyment of the people. I also could not help but notice on the plaque on the side, it said erected by Congress. When I saw that, I thought this is the perfect policy of land that our great nation should uphold. In order to have great deeds and accomplish great things, both sides have to work together. Higher purpose can only be achieved by both sides coming together for higher purpose. In a nutshell, that's my commitment to you. If confirmed, I'll work with each of you to ensure that our public lands reflect higher purpose so that our children's children, my granddaughter's children, can look back and say we did it right. I've almost met every member of this committee, and I understand that each state is different. I also understand that issues within your state are different and you have different priorities. But I'm confident that we can work together to get the job done. When asked about what my goals might be, I would say there are 3 immediate tasks. The first is to restore trust and working with rather than against local communities and states. I fully recognize that there is distrust, anger, and even hatred against some federal management policies. Being a listener and a listening advocate rather than a deaf adversary is a good start. Second is to prioritize the estimated $12.5 billion in backlog of maintenance and repair of our national parks. The President-elect is committed to a jobs and infrastructure bill, and I am committed and need your help in making sure that bill includes our national treasures. And third, to ensure that the professionals in the front line, that's our managers and rangers, have the right tools, the right resources, and the flexibility to make the right decisions to give a voice to the people they represent. As a former Montana State Senator and current Congressman, I've learned a lot since I was a SEAL in the deserts of Iraq. To accomplish my mission as Secretary of Interior, if confirmed, I know that I'm going to need your help, I'm going to need your confidence, and even perhaps your prayers. I look forward to answering your questions, and if confirmed, representing the interests of our great nation and giving a voice to all Americans, to include our great Indian nations, on how we manage, sustain our public lands, and the treasures they contain. Madam Chairman, thank you for the opportunity to appear before you in this committee, and I look forward to your questions.
Thank you, Congressman Zinke.